Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Quran Weekly, where we read the Quran in Arabic but discuss it in English. My name's Ahmed, and on the call I have with me Captain Imad. Say hi, Captain.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be with you guys.
And we're going to jump back into the Quran into, let's see, Surah Al-A'raf, verse 189. But before we begin, we must always explain by saying that we are not experts in the Quranic studies, nor experts in linguists or people who have studied the Arabic language. Obviously, Captain Ahmad has more experience than I do, and that's why I have him on the call with me. But we are merely undergoing a journey to discover the Quran, and at least I'm discovering the Quran, and to learn from it and to share our understanding with each other and with you. So if you see something that you disagree with or have a different perspective on, please feel free to drop a message, drop a comment. The more that we learn from each other, the better. And without further ado, we start with أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم before we read the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم means, of course, I seek refuge from God, from the devil. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, who's most merciful and whose mercy is most encompassing. And we're going to kick off with an interesting ayah. So can you read it, Captain Ahmad, and then we will enter the discussion for it. Over to you.
تمام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها ليسكن إليها فلما تغشاها حملت حملا خفيفا فمرت به فلما أثقلت دعوا الله ربهما لئن آتيتنا صالحا لنكونن من الشاكرين. في هاي الآية الله سبحانه وتعالى بيقول هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. إيش هي النفس الواحدة؟ ما هي النفس الواحدة؟
What is
هي
the
سيدنا آدم عليه السلام.
what is the single soul? This is what God is saying. He has created you from a single soul. So what is a single soul? So Captain Ahmad is saying that is Adam.
تمام. إذا من خلقه من نفس واحدة، النفس اللي هي بعرفش بالتحديد شو بتعني، لأنه في مفاهيم كثيرة في النفس. لكن المقصود في هاي الآية سيدنا آدم عليه السلام. كلكم لآدم، كلنا من آدم.
So what Captain Ahmad is saying is that nafs has many meanings and understandings, and I'm going to speak on behalf of Safa, because Safa always used to say that nafs does not mean soul, it means self. She seems to be very
one of the meanings, yes, absolutely, yeah.
She seems to be adamant on nafs being self, but part of this discussion is going to be very interesting because we're going to talk about what is the difference between a soul and a self. But Captain Ahmad was saying that the understanding is that this soul that we are referring to, this self that we are referring to is Adam, since we are all born from Adam, and we're all from all of us are descendants of Adam, and even from Adam, and he made from it his mate, وَجَعَلَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا, and made from this self its mate, so that they might live with her, ليسكن إليها, live with her. So
ليسكن إليها. let me interrupt you here. ليسكن، كلمة يسكن الفعل الثلاثي تبعها السكنة، سين كاف نون، سكنة. السكون وسكنة وسكون زي المسكن، أنت بترتاح وين؟ في سكنك، في بيتك.
So he's
المكان اللي
saying
بتكون.
Sakan is like a place of livelihood, a place where you live. Sakan is to live somewhere. So you live in the maskan, and this is kind of the origin of the word. So it's talking about dwelling. It's talking about places that you live.
It's the place where you feel content, all your needs are fulfilled, you feel safe, you feel warm, you feel home. Second, which means the idea of men and women marrying each other is that each and every one will be a second for his partner.
A place to live for their partner. Yeah.
So that the husband, the man who's the breadwinner, will take care of his wife and children and make sure that they live well, and so that he would fulfill all their needs, and it's their job as well to fulfill his needs of compassion and love and obedience, and I don't know what, all the mutual agreement in a marriage contract. It's not about one particular area. It's not about, let's say, sexual fulfillment only. That's not what marriage is all about. Marriage is more has more meanings than just that.
So it ties into the concept of partnership, and that you're partnering for life, and that by partnering you're creating a home for your partner, and that your partner is also creating a home for you.
تمام.
Yeah.
ليسكن إليها فلما تغشاها. The word تغشاها تعرف تغشى يغشى حصول الشيء بصورة خفية وبطيئة. فلما
Okay.
تغشاها.
I didn't
لكن هون
understand. You said that you get the thing in a discreet way.
usually that's another word of coitus or love making.
Oh, okay. So the translation that they've got on the website is that he covers her. فلما تغشاها.
Because he partly covers her and she covers him.
Okay, so it's just the Quranic, one of the Quranic
The
words for they mated.
the selection of this word تغشاها is intentional. Not a single word in the Quran can be replaced by another.
Yeah.
تغشاها means different than making love. There are many words describing the relationship in bed between man and woman. واحدة منهم وطأها.
One of them is wata. I don't know what wata means.
وطأ من أصل الكلمة توصل على أرض، تدعس على أرض الفلانية، توصل الأرض الفلانية. هذا الوطأ.
To reach a certain
Coitus.
ground.
He used so
Okay.
many different words to explain. However, let's continue on that. فلما تغشاها, when he made love to her, حملت حملا خفيفا.
She carried a burden that was light.
Which is what?
Pregnancy?
The semen, the sperm.
Oh, okay. Sure.
It's so light she wouldn't even know about it.
Okay.
She wouldn't know, is she pregnant? Is she not? Is she going to get pregnant? She doesn't know.
Okay.
It's so light, so
sure.
not so clear.
And then فمرت به, and she
So
continued.
she continued with it. فلما أثقلت, when her belly becomes huge and it becomes heavy, obviously it's pregnancy, and pregnant women feel the heaviness of the baby in their womb.
And also, it's the first pregnancy of humanity, supposedly.
Exactly. دعوا الله ربهما. They asked God for what? لأن أتيتنا صالحا. If you give us a good son, good offspring, لنكونن من الشاكرين. We will be thankful, يا رب.
Yeah. So this is about Adam and Eve. And the one point that I want to kind of refocus on is that he is the one that created you from a single self or a single soul. Now, my dad and I were arguing. Sorry, 1 second. My thing is. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah. So my dad and I were arguing about a different verse, and I would like to bring it to this discussion because there was in Surah Al-Luqman, verse 28, it says, ما خلقكم إلا بعثكم ما خلقكم ولا بعثكم إلا كنفس واحدة إن الله سميع بصير, which means, and he your creation nor your resurrection except as a single self or a single soul. So it's the same phrase and expression. Indeed, God is all hearing and all seeing. And the thing that I understood from this single self and single, or yeah, even if we use the word single self, is it's kind of indicating that we are all a part of the same entity or species or spirit or soul, or like, I like to use the word soul, but I don't want to I don't want to upset Safa even though she's not here. So I think there's some sort of philosophy to be said. Are we all linked soulfully, and are we all part of the same soul that is just taking it in many forms? Or is this just an explanation saying that we all came from a single self, from a single soul, but we are multiple selves and multiple souls, and there's a separate definition between the two?
I suppose that this verse we are reading in Al-A'raf explains it all. هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة.
So
he has created you from a single soul.
Yeah, but then
which is Adam.
So are we all one soul?
Now, if you want to talk about the soul and the spirit, this is a very huge and heavy subject. We cannot squeeze it in this reading. You need to spend like 40 minutes talking about that idea alone. So I suggest that we continue the reading so that we don't distract ourselves from our path. What do you think?
I agree. That's fair. It's just food for thought. Let us know in the comments if you think we're all the same soul or if it's all separate. But we will continue. Fair point. On to the next one.
فلما آتاهما صالحا جعل له شركاء فيما آتاهما فتعالى الله عما يشركون. When God gave them a good boy, they have made partners from the gift of God, as if it wasn't only God who created him, it wasn't only God who alone has given them the child. They thought there was somebody who did help somehow and intervened and made it possible. هذا الشرك.
Okay.
This is making partner for God.
I'm a little bit confused. Maybe I'm not familiar. He was talking about Adam and Eve, and then Adam and Eve made partners to God?
No. That verse before explains the humanity has came about from one self,
Yeah.
which was Adam and Eve. Now this is a different verse. This is a different verse.
Because it continues, right? It's saying the previous verse, Adam and Eve, they both invoked God to bring us a child that is righteous. And then the next verse says, so when he brought them a good child, a righteous child. So he's continuing what was said previously.
What I said is that the creation of humans were created from one self or soul.
Sure.
Okay. Now, the continuation of what happens next is an example of other men and women who are living now. When they get married, they have a child. When the woman is pregnant, they ask God to give them a good son, and when God does give them a good son,
it's like, doesn't falamma continue what the previous expression, the continuation of the previous ayah? دعوا ربهما. Yeah, right.
Actually, it does. فلما آتاهما صالحا, when God gave them a good boy, they made partners. From what God, but I don't think that this verse means Adam and Eve either. The second verse, I mean, it applies to all other men and women who get married later on, or have not got married.
Just following what the verses are saying, they asked for a good son, and then when he was giving them a good son, or whenever a good child, they don't say son, whenever they were given a good child, then they made partners in it. له شركاء فيما آتاهما. They made partners in what has given them. So they made partners, and he gave them something good, but they made partners. It's also possible that they made themselves as partners. Like, you can think that we have a good child because we are good people, so to speak. Maybe that it doesn't exactly say how they made partners, but it just says they did make partners to him. And exalted is God above of what they associate with him. So we don't exactly know what they did.
Exactly. We don't exactly know what they did, in which God told them that you became made partner with God. We don't know. I cannot say anything that's not in the verse.
Sure. So what's the next verse say?
Next verse say, أيشركون ما لا يخلق شيئا وهم يخلقون? Are they making partners from something or someone who cannot create anything? In fact, he himself is being created.
These idols cannot create anything, but are in fact created. Is it the idols that are created, or is it them that are created?
Anything that is worshipped with God or without God is an idol. Anything or anyone.
I understand. It's just for me the last phrase, and they were created. وهم يخلقون.
Everybody is being created. They are not creators. There's only one creator, God.
Okay. So it applies to both the people and what they were worshiping.
Come on.
Okay.
Next verse. Next.
Yeah.
ولا يستطيعون لهم نصرا ولا أنفسهم ينصرون. They cannot give them victory, those idols, and they cannot even give victory to their own selves.
Okay, so it's clearly talking about the idols now. They can't help them. They can't help them nor help themselves. They can't help the people invoking them nor help themselves. Okay.
تمام.
Um,
Next.
sorry,
Yeah.
an
Questions?
idea popped into my head, which ties back into the are we all one soul or are we not? Because it started talking about Adam and Eve, and if it continues talking about the rest of humanity, then it's talking about the same self, so to speak, just in a different form. So anything that we do represents what Adam's people and Adam's tribe are doing. So we're all kind of one together. It's just the way that I think about it is that we are all one self in a way.
This is a plausible understanding. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
It's probable.
Okay. Ooh.
Next.
Yes.
وإن تدعوهم إلى الهدى لا يتبعوكم سواء عليكم أدعوتموهم أم أنتم صامتون. If you are asking them for guidance, they're not going to follow you. In fact, they're not going to follow you whether you ask them or you don't. Or they keep silent. If you keep silent, they're not going to follow you. Make sense? No?
Yeah, but here is why is it لا يتبعوكم? Why, like in
وإن
the
تدعوهم إلى الهدى, if you invite them to the right path,
let me
وإن تدعوهم إلى الهدى لا يتبعوكم. They will not follow you.
yeah. So there's two English translations that I see before me. One is they will not follow you, and then the meaning translation below it says they cannot respond to you, because that makes more sense than they can't follow you. But no, maybe if you're calling them to be guided towards God.
Yes, exactly. إن تدعوهم إلى الهدى, calling them to the God's path.
And we're still talking about the idols. They do not follow.
Yeah. وإن تدعوهم إلى الهدى لا يتبعوكم سواء عليكم أدعوتموهم أم أنتم صامتون. It makes no difference because these are idols. These are made of stone or wood or Jefferson or whatever. They're not gonna follow you. They're not gonna understand you. They're not gonna follow the right path.
Okay. Sure. It's the same whether you call them or you remain silent. Okay.
Next.
It's just strange for me to think of calling idols for guidance. To call them to guide them. It sounds strange.
Not only the idols. If you call humans to the right path of God, they're not gonna follow you.
Yeah.
Whether you call them or you're silent.
So we're not sure that we're talking about the idols here, but we're talking about the people as well.
Yeah, the people, mainly the people.
Because previous verses, it was like they can't help you, nor can you help them. It does say associates. It doesn't necessarily mean idols, but we understand it to be idols, right?
Idols is anything that is worshipped without God or with God, away from God or with God.
So
For instance,
it can be a person as well.
of course,
Okay.
because of our brothers in home, Christians, they believe that Jesus is Son of God, and Jesus is not God, is not Son of God. However, some people do worship him because they think he's a God. That's making partner with God,
Yeah.
with the Lord. So there are so many examples in the Quran that idols, whether they are living being or whether they are statues made of whatever. Now, if you call those to guidance, to the right path of God, to God only, they will not follow you.
Yeah.
Even if you're silent, they will not follow you.
Yeah.
In other words, give up on them. There is no point.
Clear. I think that makes sense. So the idols can be people or objects, and no matter what you do, you call them. But see, like if you take Jesus as the example, you call them for guidance. It sounds a bit weird to put him in this context. But
because Jesus himself told everybody that don't call me good. Only God is good. This is in the Bible. This is a verse in the Bible, in the New Testament. Why are you calling me good? Only God is good.
Okay, so next.
Next. إن الذين تدعون من دون الله عباد أمثالكم فادعوهم فليستجيبوا لكم إن كنتم صادقين.
Yes.
Those you are calling. تفضل ترجم أنت.
No, that's good. Here's a continuation of what we were talking about, and it clarifies what they were referring to. But go on.
ترجمها أنت عادي ما في شيء ما في مشكلة.
إن الذين تدعون, indeed those who you call from besides God or other than God as their partners, they are slaves just like you. So invoke them and let them respond to you if you are truthful, if your claims are true. So call upon them and let them respond to you. But like, isn't this the exact same argument that the non-believers make about God and saying, let God call upon your God, show us your proofs if you're telling the truth, and then God responds saying, yeah, but why are they hastening what is coming to come to them? And we're not going to show them what they're asking for. So neither God nor the idols respond with proof.
All along history, all the messages of God that he has sent to humanity, all along the path of righteous path of God, people have asked their messages of God for signs, for proofs that they are honest, they are messages of God indeed, and God actually he is a fact. He does exist. They kept on asking their prophets and messengers for evidence and proofs, and they got it. They had bundles of proofs in their time.
Some people did.
Did what?
Some people had bundles of proofs. Some people had evidence. Some people had showcases, and then they didn't believe. I understand the point that you're making. But for the majority of us, and for the majority of the last, 1,400 years, 1,500 years, there have been no clear proofs beyond what we are reading today, the Quran. But it's hard to explain that a book is proof. It's only once you believe that it makes sense.
Are we saying that we need a messenger of God every decade?
Not a messenger of God every decade, but just the argument that is made in this phrase. God is saying, call upon your idols and let them respond if you are truthful. Which I go like, but that's exactly what the non-believers ask of the believers. They're like, call upon your God and let them answer if you are truthful. Like, this is literally what the non-believers say to us. So why is God saying it for the idols, but not applying it for himself?
Because God has given so many proofs to people before us, and all these proofs are written in the holy books, in the Torah, and the Bible, and the Quran. And the evidence of God's existence is more obvious than can be explained any further.
I strongly
and
disagree.
if the non-believers, if the atheists still don't believe there is God, that's their business. Okay, fine.
Sure,
that's what they want. That's what they want to choose.
Yeah. It's just hard. It's just, even as a believer myself, I can understand the power of proof, and this argument seems quite important to me. Let them respond. So let God respond. Why doesn't God respond? That being said, I have heard people asking for signs from God, and God gives them signs. But I've also been a person where I've asked a sign from God, and I haven't received a sign. So it's hard to continue having faith without proof, you know?
Okay, Ahmed, what I think is this is the first reading you are doing of the Holy Quran.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
First proper reading, yes.
Yes. This is an intentional effort on your part to read the Quran and understand it. Now, the more after you finish the whole Quran, reading the whole Quran, understanding it, there will be other times when you will read the Quran on your own and try to see it in your own eyes, try to understand it in your own language. And once you've done the reading a few times, you will discover all the arguments the atheists put up against the believers. And you will realize things we don't realize it now. One day you're going to find out something that probably nobody thought of before. So what I'm saying is, let this reading, the first reading, to be introductory reading. It's like introducing you to the Quran,
Yeah.
and understanding the language and the poetry in it and the beauty of it. And later on, every time you read the Quran more, you will discover different things. You will understand more things
I
to
I
be able
understand.
to answer the atheist to their questions.
Yeah, it's just this specific verse talks about a specific claim that the atheists make, and it's being used against idols, but it can be used against God. That's the only reason why I'm a little bit confused. But hopefully I will, like, again, for me, I started from belief, and because I'm believing and reading the Quran, I can see how miraculous the Quran is and how beautiful it is and how magnanimous it is. But I'm trying to answer the question of how do we make somebody believe if they don't believe? And this is
It's not our job. It's not our job to guide them to faith. Our job, if they come to ask us, that we will tell them.
okay.
Now, if they become interested in religion, we have to explain Islam to them.
Okay.
It's our duty to explain Islam to them when they come and ask. But we can't go to churches and ask them, "Did you discover Prophet Muhammad?" That's not our business.
Yeah.
It's not our business to go to atheists and ask them, "Did you discover God?"
Yeah.
Now, the two men, both of them seeing the sun rising every day and setting every evening. One of them believes that God has created the sun. The other one says, "No, it's the universe." And this is where the argument stops. The atheist can believe whatever he wants to believe, and we believers can believe whatever we want to believe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand how it ties to this specific verse. How does God use this exact verse to say, "Call upon your idols and let them respond if you are truthful"? When I don't see that if you call upon God, He doesn't respond either. You know?
No, you said that the argument of the atheist will set up, okay, you believers call your God,
Yeah.
and God doesn't answer them
Yeah.
because the answers are abundant everywhere around them.
See, I have a problem with that because this argument is saying they're they can use the same argument backwards and say like let our faith speak volumes, let our faith speak the truth rather than the evidence or the response. And here God is saying that their idols won't respond, and if God won't respond, maybe He does respond in his own way, in a different answer, but it's kind of like, for me, it's the same problem.
I think, as you just said, God responds in different ways that we're not even aware of.
Yeah, but they can say that about their idols, right? They can say that they answer in ways that we don't understand or know, and leave it at that. And then you're like, okay, but then how does this verse act as a proof? Like, let them answer. Anyway, I don't think we're gonna find the answer now, but yeah, it's just an issue. If you have a perspective on this, please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Next.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
ألهم أرجل يمشون بها أم لهم أيد يبطشون بها أم لهم أعين يبصرون بها أم لهم آذان يسمعون بها قل ادعوا شركاءكم ثم كيدوني فلا تنظرون. Do they have those idols you worship, mainly, whether the idols made of whatever it was, statues or whatever idols they worship? ألهم أرجل يمشون, do they have legs to walk on? Do they have hands where they can hit and kill and do things with? Do they have eyes they see with? Do they have ears they hear with? Tell them, call upon your partners. And then كيدوني, المكيدة هي
Scheme against me.
ثم كيدوني إيه؟
Scheme against me, conspire against me.
كونسباير اكزاكتلي. هاي مؤامره، يحضروا لكم خطه واشتغلوا ضدي. اذا قدرتوا لا تنظرون. تنظرني يعني اخرني او استناني.
Yeah, don't give me a break.
مجرد ما اصح لكم فرصه انكم تكيدوا لي، تعملوا لي مشكله، تفضلوا تعالوا، لا تستنوش علي.
As long as you've got an opportunity to scheme against me, then come ahead and do it immediately. Don't wait. Okay. I hate to continue the line of thought, but does God have feet to walk upon, or hands to hold, or eyes to see, or ears to hear?
This brings us to an ancient old discussion between you and I. الكون كلمات الله صادرة عنه وليست جزءا منه.
The universe
God,
is a result of God's words, that it's produced from God, but it does not contain God, or is
it's
not
not part of God.
it's not a part
It's
of
not
God.
part of God. Now, when God is asking the idol worshippers about their idols, do they have legs? Do they have hands? Do they have eyes? Do they have ears? And then the argument they came back with is, does your God have eyes? Does your God have hands? Does your God have ears? God has given us so many verses and phrases that we can understand. For instance, أحد أسماء الصفات, the name of the names of adjectives of God, السميع البصير. السميع, that he who can hear, والبصير, he who can see.
All seeing, all
Now,
hearing, all seeing.
all hearing, all seeing. Now, for us humans and animals, you can only see with your eyes. You can only hear with your ears. God hears and sees with tools that we're not even aware of.
Sure.
He doesn't need eyes. He doesn't need ears. He doesn't need hands to. He doesn't need.
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with you, and I'm saying that God does not have feet to walk on, so to speak, because our understanding of feet is too limited to attribute it to God. So feet, eyes, ears, hands are not descriptions of God, and then yet God is asking this of the idols. And then he's
God is
saying,
talking to them. God is talking to them to their level of understanding. Your level of understanding, be able to achieve anything, you should be able to hear and see and walk and hit and do things in this world. God can do all this and even more without the need of eyes and ears and hands and I don't know what. في آيات في القرآن في آيات في القرآن هذا سبب مشكلة كبيرة بالفقهاء في العصور الماضية.
there are verses in the Quran, and this created a lot of problems between the scholars of the past centuries.
For instance, في آية في القرآن الكريم بتقول, آية في القرآن
There's a
بتقول وقالت اليهود يد الله مغلولة.
So there's an ayah in the Quran that says, and the Jews said about God's hand is stingy or not
Tight,
tight,
stingy.
tight. Yeah.
And then the ayah continues بل يداه مبسوطتان.
And then the verse continues, no, their hands are the ones that are
Both hands too. بل يداه.
both of their hands.
Now the Muslim scholars thought, okay, hang on a second. God doesn't have only one hand. He has two hands.
No, but that's not talking about their hands. It's talking about the two hands of the Jews. Or am I?
No. When the Jews said God's hand is tight, stingy, they don't mean that actual physical hand. They mean that God is miser, as he's not generous.
It's a metaphor for him being stingy or doesn't want
Stingy.
Yeah.
When it answers بل يداه مبسوطتان, both his hands are giving.
Oh, both of his
It
hands are
doesn't
open. I misunderstood. I didn't. I translated it incorrectly. So both of his hands are open.
open with giving. That again indicates he's not mean, he's not miser, he's not holding tight. He's generous.
He's generous instead. Okay.
So the analogy in that verse we didn't read yet indicates to some Muslim scholars, indicated to some Muslim scholars that God has hands. He has two hands. The verse says God has two hands.
Yeah. So
However,
then God does have hands, eyes, and feet.
no, because if you say that God has hands, heads, feet, legs, ears, you are making an image of God that is similar to humans.
Yeah. So I mean, this is also where we lean from the Christian faith, that God created man in His image.
Tamam. God created Adam in his image. Whose image? Adam's image or God's image?
God's image.
No, it's about his image. God
Well,
has created the elephant on the elephant's image.
no,
God created fish on the fish
I,
image.
this is not the understanding that the Christians have, and this is not the understanding that I have with it from the Bible. God created man in His image. His part they're referring to is God. It's pointless to say God created man in man's image. Like, that's the pointless statement. That's an empty statement. That's like saying nothing. It's like God saying God created man. The only reason it makes sense is if you say God created man in God's image. That makes sense.
Because of what was mentioned in the Bible, the Muslim scholars have divided into two. One says you cannot portray God as a human being, like a man. The other one says, no, he has to be like a man. And those who say God has created man on God's image, it's because this will lead to something called التشبيه والتجسيم. بنعمل لله شبيه وبنعمل له جسم وهذا لا يجوز على الله.
We make something in the likeness of God, or make something a part of God, and that doesn't apply to God. That doesn't work for God.
Why? May I continue?
Yeah.
Or would you rather continue to the next verse?
Finish your point if you can.
The idea is whatever your brain, your mind, your imagination imagines God self to be, God is not that. كل ما خطر ببالك الله غير ذلك.
Is that a Quranic phrase or a philosophy?
This is a Sufist saying.
Yeah, which, look, I'm not saying, like, all I'm saying here is the example that is given by God, and bringing it back to the verse, is that they're idols. Do they have hands? Do they have legs? Do they have eyes? Do they have ears? And from the example that you gave me from another part of the Quran, where it's saying God's hands, both of God's hands, are open, it might be a metaphor, but it might be literal. So in a way, here it's saying, yeah, God does have eyes and ears, but, like, again, that's a bit of a stretch. It's let's not get too complicated by it. But at the end of the day, God is saying, call upon your partners so that they may scheme against me immediately and not give me respite. Go ahead, see what they can do. It's kind of like God is challenging.
The end of the day, Habibi, if I make intervene, Allah سميع بسمع وسمعه هو وبصير ببصر وبصره هو.
God is hearing with hearing, and His hearing is in and of itself. God is seeing and all seeing, and His sight is in and of itself.
عالم بعلم وعلمه هو.
He's knowledgeable of knowledge. He's knowledgeable of knowledge, and His knowledge is in and of itself.
قادر بقدرة وقدرته هي هو.
Why are you saying all of this?
Because it is very imperative not to imagine even how does God look like.
I mean, I get that that's a philosophy, but I don't get that as a directive from the Quran, as far as I can see.
ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع العليم. آية قرآنية.
So there's a Quranic reference that says there's nothing like God, and I agree. I don't think there's anything like
exactly.
God.
So if there's nothing like God, humans don't look like God, angels don't look like God, nothing looks like God.
But it doesn't say that you can't try and imagine God.
Whatever you imagine God is different.
Okay, let's go to the next verse.
Yeah, we spent so much time on this one.
Sorry, guys, but yeah, that's the point of this channel. Apologies if it's taking too long. Next.
إن ولي الله الذي نزل الكتاب وهو يتولى الصالحين. ولي الله، الولي احنا عارفين، we know الولي هو the guy who takes care of me. Like, for instance, when my son was underage, like until the age of 18, when he was under 18, أنا كنت ولي أمره. I was in charge of his decision taking in his life. Because he was a child, he didn't know any better. I had to guide him to teach him, to feed him, to take care of him and everything. This was my responsibility. الولي هو the guy you always go to when you need help.
Yes,
ولي هو الله.
Yeah.
My guardian is God.
Guardian. Yeah.
الذي نزل الكتاب وهو يتولى الصالحين. He has given us the book, and the book here, as I understand it, is the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran.
Yeah.
وهو يتولى الصالحين. He is the guardians of good people.
Yeah, he's the guardian and the protector of good people. Yeah, clear.
Questions?
No, clear.
Next.
Yes.
والذين تدعون من دونه لا يستطيعون نصركم ولا أنفسهم ينصرون.
Yeah.
Those who you are calling upon below him,
Yeah.
or other than him, they cannot help you. They cannot be victorious to you, and they cannot even help themselves.
Yeah. Clear.
Next.
Yeah.
وإن تدعوهم إلى الهدى لا يسمعوا وتراهم ينظرون إليك وهم لا يبصرون. If you call them for guidance, they will not hear you. And you see them looking at you, but they can't see you. Questions?
So this is kind of going back to the phrases that we were reading just before. And
exactly, in repetition there is a benefit.
Yeah, so it's repeating. If you call them to guidance, which still confuses me. Like, how do you call them to guidance? Wait, maybe that's a difference between what we saw before. So here it says, and if you call them to guidance, they do not hear, and you see them looking at you, but they do not see. And before, what did it say? Yeah, if you call them to guidance, they do not follow. Whether you guide them or not.
Which means they heard you, but they're not going to follow you.
Are you sure?
Here it means if you call them for guidance, they will not even hear you. Before they heard, or the ones before, they heard what you said, but they're not going to follow you. They did hear it actually, but they're not going to follow you. Here, even when you are calling them for the guidance, they're not even listening. They're not even hearing it. That's the difference.
And you see them looking at you, but they do not see. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Next.
خذ العفو وأمر بالعرف وأعرض عن الجاهلين. Here there is an order. خذ العفو. ما هو العفو؟ كلمة عفا عفو تيجي معاني كثيرة. واحدة منها is pardoning, forgiving.
Forgiveness, yeah.
Forgiveness. واحدة منهم ما زاد عن الحاجة.
What has gone above the necessity.
What remains after you spending your things on your necessities. Let's say somebody has a job and his job pays, say, 5,000 euros a month. His essential needs is 6,000 euros a month. This is a poor guy. If his essential monthly needs are only 2,000 euros, he's wealthy. So when people ask Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, يسألونك ماذا ينفقون. They're asking you, what should they spend? How much should they spend? And the verse says, يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو ما زاد عن حاجتي.
So
whatever more than my needs.
Yeah. So they ask you what should they spend, and your response should be anything that is above and beyond covering my needs, covering my basis, and then you should spend that, which is an interesting expression because that's also what Jesus used to kind of preach. He used to preach that you shouldn't amass wealth. You shouldn't be saving money. You should be trusting God to protect for you, and anything that goes above your needs, you should give back, so to speak. Which I think it's a beautiful explanation of afu, which is it's kind of forgiveness, but it's also being gracious. That's also what the translation is saying. Be gracious in what you're given.
What remains after your basic needs?
Yeah.
Any excess of that, you can give it away for the poor and needy.
Yeah.
وأمر بالعرف. What's العرف? العرف is anything that the society deems appropriate. For instance, in some parts of Africa, it is perfectly okay for women to walk in the markets totally naked from the waist up, not wearing anything.
Okay, where are you going with this?
هذا العرف المجتمع عندهم بالعرف
Oh,
عندهم. This is acceptable.
Okay, so this is kind of talking about morality and what's righteous and what's right. What's right for one society can be different than what's right for another society. It's not like a universal goodness, but like do good in the context of the society or environment that you're given.
It's a social code.
Yeah.
The social code in one country is crazy in another.
Yeah.
Not acceptable, and the other acceptable social code is rejected by other nations, other societies. أؤمر بالعرف, whatever these people are accustomed to do, you order with that. You ask them to do that, unless it contradicts the principles of religion and God, the guidance of God.
Okay, but anyway, it's just saying and command. I understand u'mur as command.
Yeah.
Wa'mur. But here it's saying enjoin what is right. I don't know what enjoin means. It's a new word for me. Instruct. It is instruct or urge someone to do something. Okay, I don't know. Cool.
For instance, if a Muslim woman goes to Europe and she's wearing hijab, in Europe, hijab is something gharib, strange. They don't.
In some parts.
They are. What?
In some parts. In some parts, it's perfectly fine and perfectly normal.
In some parts who are not accustomed to seeing a woman in hijab, and they think this is oppression of women.
Yeah.
One of the modern scholars in Islam says it's okay to, if you're afraid you're going to be discriminated against, it's okay to take off your hijab. Now, that's his understanding, not mine.
Yeah.
And this is where al-urf, the social code, is meant. This is what the social code is meant.
So you're saying, yeah, okay, so I can kind of understand that ruling, that if you're in a society that is fine for you to not wear the hijab, then it could make sense. But let's not cross lines and let's not tell people what they should do. Just our understanding of what we understand it to be. So just do good, and good is subjective to the region and place that you're in. And turn away.
Turn away from the ignorance.
Turn away from the ignorant, from those who are acting. Clear.
وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه سميع عليم. Anytime you feel that the devil is wooing you to do something wrong, you seek refuge by God from him. And God, إنه سميع عليم, he's all hearing, all knowledge. But he doesn't have ears or brain to process information like humans. Okay?
Yeah.
He's not like his creation. Questions?
No, I think it's pretty powerful. Also saying whenever you feel the pull of the devil, then this is what you do. Seek refuge from God. Asta'idh billah, seek refuge from God. It's not like the act of asking God for refuge is the way to seek refuge. Like just calling to God, asking him to help you, then that's the best way to get it through. You
immediately, if you feel the devil wooing you to do something wrong, immediately say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Yeah.
I'm seeking refuge from God, by God from the devil.
It's what we say at the beginning of every episode.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. هذا نازل من الشيطان. Immediately تذكر الله.
Yeah. So if you feel the pull of the devil, you feel you're tempted to do some sinning or do something wrong, then this is what you should do. Call upon God. Next.
إن الذين اتقوا إذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان تذكروا فإذا هم مبصرون. الذين اتقوا، الاتقى اللي هو avoids sins, avoids bad things، اللي بيخافوا الله، اللي بيتقوا الله.
The ones that are mindful or feel fearful of God and always keep God in their heart, in their minds.
إذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان، طائف من الشيطان كأنه ريح خفية هيك، بدون ما تحس suddenly بتحس إنه في شيء عندك بيجيك بطريق خفي الشيطان، تدرك فورا انه هذا من الشيطان.
something that comes to you almost in a
subtle
subtle way, kind of. Here they translated it to an evil thought, or if Satan whispers, if it's a whisper from Satan. Remember,
اللي اتقوا اذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان immediately they remember what.
they remember. فتذكروا.
اعوذ بالله ان الذين اتقوا اذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان تذكروا ماذا؟
الله.
اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بالضبط. Immediately you seek refuge from the devil by the God.
And if they do, then they are the ones who see things clearly.
فإذا هم مبصرون. Suddenly everything is clear in their eyes. Alhamdulillah, yeah. God has taken the devil away from me.
Yeah. I was trying to see 206. That's where we're at. Okay. Next.
وإخوانهم يمدونهم في الغي ثم لا يقصرون. إخوانهم, here the word إخوان means brothers.
Yeah.
When in fact, those first verse was talking about the people الذين اتقوا. الآية الأولى بتحكي عن الذين اتقوا.
The ones who were mindful. The previous verse was talking about the ones who were mindful.
هاي الآية بتحكي عن اللي هم والشياطين إخوان.
This verse
is, yeah, go ahead.
This verse talks about them, their brothers, and the devil.
No, the devils and the demons are their brothers.
The devils.
Those who have taken those who took the devil and the demons, their brothers, they are guiding them into the wrong path without any shortness. Sparing
no effort. But their brothers plunge them into the error, and then they do not cease. They don't stop. Here it's saying the devils, but for me, it just translates, like, for me it's a metaphorical brothers. The people around you, the ones that you consider your family, the ones that you consider good for you, are the ones that push you into error. I don't see that it means that their brothers are the devils, but I do see the translation says that. But the devils persistently plunge their human associates deeper into wickedness.
في آية في القرآن الكريم بتقول إن المبذرين إخوان الشياطين. المبذر هو اللي برمي فلوسه على الأشياء القذرة الوسخة, الجامبلينج, الكحول, الدراجز, I don't know all that crap.
Okay.
Prostitution.
My brain's a bit tired to try and explain it, but let's go into the phrase that we have. وَأَخْوَانُهُمْ يَمُدُّونَهُمْ فِي الْغَيِّ. The devils plunge their brothers in wickedness. Does that make sense?
No, those who has taken the devils as their own brothers, no. those brothers from the devils, from the demons, they are giving them more and more of straying away from the path of God.
I don't think it's talking about the brothers of the devils. I think the previous verse was talking about إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقُوا, those who are mindful of God. When the devils come to them, they remember God. However, the brothers of those who are mindful of God, the devils plunge them into
No, not the brothers of those who are mindful of God. The brothers who are mindful with the devil. They are brothers of the devil. أنا عندي الترجمة حتى العربية قدامي. وإخوانهم أي إخوان الشياطين من الكفار. هلا الشياطين في شياطين إنس والجن.
So he's saying the brothers are the disbelievers or the devils themselves. I don't quite get that. Also, the translation here that I see before me, the devil persists their human associates deeper into wickedness, sparing no efforts. Ikhwanuhum being their human associates, the ones that aren't mindful, they're the ones who are plunged, يَمُدُّونَهُمْ فِي الْغَيِّ. They're being plunged into error. So, ikhwanuhum, the ones that aren't, the brothers, and I think brothers here is a metaphor, as in their compatriots, they're people who they consider family. The ones who aren't mindful of God are being plunged into the error, and they're not given any respite.
Questions?
No, I think we have different understandings, but it's all good. Let's move on.
No, to me, it's clear. The first one is talking about people who fear God. The second verse is talking about those who have become brothers to devils and demons.
I don't think it's brothers to devils and demons. I think it's brothers to those who fear God, and the demons and devils plunge them into error. The demons and devils tried with the people who fear God, but they didn't succeed. But they did succeed with the ones who don't fear God. That's what it's saying.
That makes sense. I agree. Next.
Next.
وإذا لم تأتهم بآية قالوا لولا اجتبيتها قل إنما أتبع ما يوحى إلي من ربي هذا بصائر من ربكم وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. If you don't bring them a sign, a miracle from God, they would say, couldn't you fake it? قل, say يا محمد, إنما أتبع ما يوحى إلي. I'm only following what has been revealed to me from God. هذا بصائر من ربكم. These are eye openers from God.
Enlightenment.
القرآن, the Quran is بصائر من ربكم, eye openers from God. وهدى and guidance. ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون, and mercy for people who believe. Questions?
No, I think it's So here it's saying it's a clear message to the prophet. If you don't bring them a sign, they say, "What do you make? Why don't you make one up?" And you just say, "I follow only what is revealed from God, a guide and a mercy for those who believe." Clear.
Next.
Yeah.
وإذا قرئ القرآن فاستمعوا له وأنصتوا لعلكم ترحمون. If you hear the Quran being recited, فاستمعوا, listen. أنصتوا هو السمع مع الاهتمام والتفكير والتدبر.
Pay attention.
الإنصات, you pay attention to what's being said. You don't just, في فرق بين انك تسمع وبين انك تنصت.
Yeah, there's a difference between listening and attentively paying attention.
Exactly. When the Quran is being recited, you should listen and be attentive in understanding and following the verse. لعلكم ترحمون, so that you can get mercy from God.
Yeah.
Next. واذكر ربك في نفسك تضرعا وخيفة ودون الجهر من القول بالغدو والآصال ولا تكن من الغافلين.
And remember your Lord by yourself, humbly and in fear, without loudness, from the words of the mornings, in the mornings and in the evenings, and do not be amongst the heedless. So remember your Lord inwardly with humility and reverence, in a moderate tone of voice, both morning and evening. Does this kind of talk about prayer, or is this talking about mentioning God?
ذكر الله عبادة, صلاة, صلة مع الله.
So remembering God is a form of prayer. It is discussing prayer.
Praying to God, asking God for help, that's a prayer.
Yeah.
Mentioning His name, remembering Him in every action, every word, every thought in your mind is connection, is prayer, is kind of prayer. واذكر ربك في نفسك تضرعا وخيفة. deep inside ما حدش عارف انك انت عم تذكر ربك, وحتى تقدر تذكره بهمس دون الجهر من القول.
Say it in a way that is internal and quiet, and you can do it in a way that nobody else hears you. The whole point isn't that you show others that it's there, but you always have it.
يعني kind of whispering, call upon your God, Lord, in silence inside your chest, and even out loud, but not to extent where people around you can hear you and understand what you're saying. Not really loud, but it can be heard from very short distance, like whisper.
Yeah. Next, and the final verse for today.
إن الذين عند ربك لا يستكبرون عن عبادته ويسبحونه وله يسجدون. Now, those who are in the ايش يعني عند ربك؟
nearest to God.
nearest to God لا يستكبرون عن عبادته. الاستكبار عن العبادة أنا أكبر من إني أكون عبد. لا الله ما حدش بيستكبر عنه.
They're not too proud to worship God.
ويسبحونه وله يسجدون.
And they glorify him, and to him they prostrate. Now there's a symbol here after يسجدون.
أيوة. أيوة.
Does this symbol mean that they have to prostrate now while they're reading it?
Yes, sir. Every time you see that symbol in the Holy Quran, you stop reading and you prostrate to God.
So we're supposed to...
ربنا لك السجود. سبحان ربي الأعلى سبحان ربي الأعلى سبحان ربي الأعلى ربنا لك السجود. نسيت شو بدك تقول. شو بتقول هذا؟
I was going to say, so should we do it now as we're reading?
We could.
We should.
We should. We could. We can. We will.
Okay. Cool. I will do it right after this video because doing it on camera might be a little bit difficult. But that concludes today's segment. Sorry if it took a little bit longer than usual, but thank you all for following us. And as usual, we always end the Quranic reading with Sadaq Allahu al-Ali al-Azim, which means trusted in the word of God, who's most merciful and most elevated. I'd like to thank you very much, Captain Ahmad, for going on another episode with me. Thank you for joining me today. And I would like to say goodbye to everyone. Say goodbye, Captain Ahmad.
Okay.
Wait, did you want to say something? Did you want to say something?
No, I just want to confirm that every time you see that sign, you should prostrate.
You're double checking it at this point in time. Okay.
What's the word again? حكيتها يسجدون.
يسجدون.
بالإنجليزي.
Prostrating.
Prostrating. ربي لك السجود وأنت ربي المعبود. سبحان ربي الأعلى سبحان ربي الأعلى سبحان ربي الأعلى. Every time you see the sign, you should prostrate now.
Prostrate. Okay. I'll do that.
Done for the day?
Done for the day. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And
thank you for having me.
And to everybody on YouTube, thanks for watching. مع السلامة. Bye-bye.
Bye.